We all are architects of our own suffering and our own pleasures. The principle of compounding works on health also. My template has been so far that don't chase shortcuts. Movement is the best medicine, best pill what you can have. No side effects, no overdose. I think getting bored is a luxury for 21st century. Just like they are very picky about whom to date, whom to get married, it has to be as the same lens to apply where to work and whom to work for or whom to work with.
Tech entrepreneur, endurance sports enthusiast, running coach, and a podcaster himself. Our guest today on the Settle or Be Better podcast is Mr. Dilip, who's going to be talking to us about taking charge of your own health and a lot more. So, welcome, Mr. Dilip, and over to you. Why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your personal health and well being story and your current work?
Well, thank you, Sakshi, for having me on your podcast. Pleasure. Look forward to this conversation. Uh, I think you pretty much gave all the keywords about my introduction, but I'll try to give it a short version. So, I'm based out of Bangalore, India. My background has mostly been technology, so I've done some startups and worked mostly in the startup space. Health is today more a personal identity as well as a professional identity. So I work with Rain Matter, where I help manage the investments in health and wellness startups. But outside of that, what got me here is, of course, my personal passion and interest towards health and fitness. So I've had my own journey from what they call 0 to 1. I'm happy to talk more specifics, but that's about my intro. I'm a father to a 2-year old. Have a lovely wife at home. So that's my background.
That's lovely. That's lovely to know a little part of your life. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I can't wait to dive right into our episode today. So, you talk a lot about your own journey on your own socials, right? On your own personal health journey. And you talk about how it has been for you to become fitter after your 30s. So, tell us a little bit more about that because, unfortunately, a lot of us, we see our friends or relatives, a lot of people who start working on their health after their 30s, and a lot of times it's just because they were alarmed because of some or the other health crisis. They were not doing well and the doctor told them to do so. And we didn't really, all of us didn't really grow in a culture that was very fitness oriented growing up, right? Like a very few of us had that background, or where we saw parents or where schools and colleges promoted fitness in a way that appealed to us. But we do get more inclined towards it after our 30s or say late 20s. So how was it for you, and what was it that was your why you started working on yourself, and what were some changes that you started making?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to cover. I'm not sure how much time we've got, but look, I think generally in life, I've seen we all are architects of our own suffering and our own pleasures. And what we do today essentially determines a lot what we are going to do in our years to come in future. So if you kind of backtrack our living as growing up as a child, as you get into your teens and then your adulthood, engineers a lot about how your future is going to be. And in our culture and in society in general in India, I'm an 80s kid. I'm not sure for most of your audience what the average size is, but growing up in 80s and 90s, staying healthy, eating right, nutrition is essentially not part of a common narrative. And I'm saying that in particular because the guys who are in 80s are probably right now in their 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, or maybe 40s. So some of them would probably try to jog their memory that conversations around why you should exercise, why you should eat the right food, that's not part of a common culture. But it has changed a lot now. For the past 5, 8, 10 years, it has changed a lot, and that's largely because the fabric of our culture was very different back in the days, right? Just getting food to the table itself was a big task, which most of the middle class family would want to get through. So I was part of that ecosystem, right? And uh, sports in particular was always an extracurricular activity. It was not a primary activity, right? So there is this word extra in itself. It's extra to what you do, right? So uh, you were always, it's an incentive. If you finish your homework, if you get some good grades, you're given a bat or a ball or a cycle, right? Or you are given an extra half an hour, 1 hour to go and play games.
True.
So that has been the culture, and I think the combination of all of this kind of somewhere left us aloof from this identity of staying healthy. And I'm not trying to generalize, but to a large population, and if you look at now, we have 130 million people who are diabetic, over 100 million people who are obese and overweight, and almost 60 million women are suffering from PCOS. So the numbers are scary, and we genuinely have a health crisis. So how did we reach here, and why did we reach here? So we have to kind of go back and see what went wrong. So I was part of that culture, and my eureka moment, as you were asking, what why the why we was, one 5 6 years back, I was looking at my medical bills. In companies, usually you have to submit your medical bills for reimbursement. So there's some amount which you get reimbursed, right?
Right.
And I was putting together my medical bills, and it turned out that my bills were almost half of my annual salary. So that was that was a shocker to me, that I've exposed myself to almost every department of medicine in a hospital, with all different type of illness issues, health issues. So that was a eureka moment to me, to realize what's happening, and this doesn't cut out, right? I mean, you try to earn so much for your living, but you're not trying to understand where that earning is going in, and most half of that is going in just to breathe properly. So that was my eureka moment, and then you know like I said at the beginning, everyone is the architect of their own suffering. I realized I was the architect of where I got myself, so I have to be again architect of what I want to be. And I realized I have to do something to myself, and that was a turning point.
Absolutely, that makes so much sense, and especially about the medical bills part, because I'm sure everyone listening to this can relate to it. That in each and every Indian family, there would be that one person we know who is always, going into cycles of going into hospitals and out, and under this burden of paying so many medical bills. Where in first hand, if we were to invest a little bit on our health much earlier, we can definitely avoid that later, right? So because you've had this, you are a tech entrepreneur, you've had this background, you've been into investing, what would be some of your top things that you would begin with when it comes to investing in health? Where can we begin with? And what can be, because we talk about budgeting, we talk about so many things when it comes to the new year, right? And what are some things that you would like people to think about when it comes to investing in their own health in this coming year?
Yes, look, the word investment largely is attached to creation of wealth. In particular, you're investing to build something for future, and we try to resonate that largely from a financial point of view, right? That you invest so that you can have a secure wealth for your future, whether it's retirement or for your children or for whatever goals you have got. But if you extend that word investment and you look at from a perspective of investing in health, that also means that you're trying to live a better life, a healthier life, a life which has more longevity, to cherish and enjoy your wealth. What is wealth worth of if you are not able to live that much? Right. So all your savings, all your mutual funds, all your stock investment, no matter how much it compounds, if you don't stay that long, you're not going to enjoy that much. So just like in wealth, the principle of compounding works on health also. So you keep working with smaller goals and milestone, and eventually it will give you a long term benefit, right? And again, I'm going back to that analogy of wealth. There's no shortcut. You can't just become a quick millionaire over the weekend, or you just can't become a billionaire just in a year, 2 year. It takes time, and exactly like that, to build quality life for better longevity, it will take time. You should not. So you asked me for tips. I'm not sure if I can. I would have a ready section of tip, but typically my template has been so far that don't chase shortcuts. It's just not worth everything from wealth creation, knowledge creation, and in health build up. You have to think from a longevity point of view, which means don't fall victim or prey to these small uh, diet hack programs or whatever or the products out there in the market which will promise you if you eat this will happen to you, or if you drink that will happen to you. You always have to measure it from the lens that will this improve the delta of my health in the long term than in short term. Anything which improves the delta in short term is not good for you. That's one. Second, there are some basic infrastructure points, like we say that you build a better road, you build a better highway, you connect cities, and therefore you connect the country, and like that there are some basic infrastructure points which one should look at it. One is of course eating right. Now eating right doesn't mean that you have to diet or you have to consult a nutrition. Eating right just simply means first principle, avoid everything which is packaged, avoid anything which comes in a packet to tell you that you could eat anything on the go. Eat healthy, which is more natural. Look at your plate and see whether you have different colors. If you don't have color, if you just have one food with a single color, perhaps that's not giving you all the nutrient what you need. So if you get more different colors, that is vegetable, all different macronutrients, it becomes more healthier quotient, right? So eat right. uh, People mostly don't know what eating right means, and I was shocked after, including myself, after a long time I didn't realize, I also didn't know a fundamental of what protein is, what carbs is. So it took me some time to learn. So therefore it's never late to go back and educate yourself some basics to understand what your body type is, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. For a South Indian it would work very differently, for a North Indian it would work very differently. Because we all have different gene type, we have every different metabolism. So what work for one will definitely not work for the other person. That's one, eating right. Second is movement. Movement is the best medicine, best pill what you can have. No side effects, no overdose. No one has ever said that I have done too much of movement, right? So that's the best pill you can get. And find ways to anchor movement in your life, whether it could be playing sport or it could be involved in any form of fitness activity. It could be yoga, it could be going to a gym, it could be pilates, it could be dancing, it could be just anything which makes your body move, right? Whether it's 10,000 steps or whether it's climbing something, whatever. So then move your body, because movement is extremely important for our body type. And third is rest and recovery. Extremely important aspect. I feel that that's the underrated performance drug of 21st century.
True.
We don't get enough. We are constantly thinking about hacks to perform, hacks to live long. But a basic thing is, if you can get just 6 to 7 hours of good quality sleep, that should do wonders to you. And fourth is mental health. We spoke about physical health all the time, but one topic which is also very ignored is mental health. We live in a world where we are constantly distracted. There are millions of signals which are finding our attention. As we are talking and speaking with each other, I'm sure this is a podcast to people who might be walking somewhere, who might be running somewhere, and they're listening to us. So in some way they're also not singularly attentive, right? I mean, they're doing passive stuff. They might be involved in some activity, but they're also listening or watching what we are saying right now, right? So distraction is something we all are victims of, and we have consciously chosen to be a victim. No one has choked us into us, and we have to accept it's a pandemic. It's a 21st century pandemic, right? So we have to find ways to stay distraction free. I think getting bored is a luxury for 21st century. We can't get bored,
True.
right? I mean, when was the last time when we can say that we got bored? Because this, we just can't get bored. We are constantly around with we were surrounded with tools which is keeping us busy, right? And therefore our brains and our minds are constantly wired. So yeah, so these are four aspects, like I said: movement, eat right, sleep well, stay stress free, focus on your mental health. If you get these four basic pieces right, I think that's a very good start to live a very healthy life. And then of course, depending on your situation, you can of course seek guidance from experts in each of the category to help you, dial down specific parts of it. But that's largely, what I recommend friends, family members who come up and ask me. I said, these are the four things what you should get through.
Absolutely, and these are quite the basics that we often forget when we are running behind all the new biohacks and the longevity hacks, like you spoke about. Especially the last thing when you talk about distraction, I just recently read a quote, which said something like, "If you're walking, walk. If you're eating, eat. If you're reading, read." Because when was the last time, like you said, we actually just did one thing at a time? Even if it's a lunch, we go for these working lunches. We go for this coffee runs where we are constantly on meetings, or we are not even reading one thing at a time. So that's so true. Just being a little bit more mindful of that and having that time for yourself can be quite interesting, right? And also talking about movement, your choice of movement seems to be long distance running. So tell us a little bit about that. Why long distance running, and what is it that it does for you?
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes.
look, like I said, I mean, everyone has to find their tool to movement. Running was my tool to my movement, my reason to movement. I, for the longest time, just couldn't. There's always an identity people find themselves. So I just could not identify myself as a gym person. And what I mean by that, I don't mean to offend people who go to gym. I just couldn't find myself adapted well into a gym environment, like, right. So running was more, my introduction to running was serendipity and also painful. So I had a ligament tear, and a doctor had advised me to go through a surgery. This is 4 5 years back. And uh, when I said, I'm too early in my career to go through a surgery, so what's an organic way for me to get rehab? And they said that, we go through rehab and you start jogging. And that was the first time I, kind of uh, uh, got myself introduced to the sport. I remember I went out for my first jog, and I came back and I told my wife I saw a human who was non-stop on his feet for 5 minutes. How is it even possible? Because I was panting, I was out of breath. But somehow that first experience really left very liberating experience to me. So I went back again, so I continued that streak. There was a consistency, and I somehow found myself enjoying that experience, going out in the morning. Well, at least few years back, back in the early days, in the morning, it was traffic free, it was a fair good weather, so you could enjoy that. So I was enjoying that experience, and that just led me to keep getting back on the sport. And yeah, so I started enjoying the entire experience what running was giving me, and everything was an outcome. I mean, I didn't take up to running to lose weight per se or anything. It was, I said I'll give it a try. And I think losing weight and getting faster and all of them was a byproduct, a by outcome of me being consistent. So yeah, so today, I'm happy that I still can call myself a runner, and I'm enjoying the process.
That's great to know, and it does take people a lot of time, a lot of years of trying so many new things to finally find that thing that they can, stick around with for the years to come and be more consistent with. So I hope that this new year, as cliche as New Year, new goals, new me sounds, I hope that some of us can really find that movement of choice and stick to it, right? And you show very interestingly your several travel stories. I mean, it looks like you do have so many of these travel plans. You've been to places. What is something that you have learned from these travel that was unique to health and well-being? Like maybe something you learned about yourself, or something traveling with the communities you were going with.
Yeah, I mean, my travel has cut down a lot because, like I said, I have a 2 year old at home. So it's the fabric of travel is not what it was earlier. But yeah, me and my partner, my wife, used to travel a lot earlier. Now I think traveling, for when we travel for pleasure, it's for a reason. So we kind of do a lot of offbeat travel. and travel is for an intent. So we do a lot of treks, uh, uh, and so we don't indulge in a lot of luxurious travel per se, but most of the time we are in mountains doing some sort of treks, or some physical activity. I think travel and again, movement is kind of parallel to what we do. I find myself now that the best way to explore any city while I'm traveling is to go out for a run. So that's a great way. Just a pair of shoes is always in my luggage whenever I'm traveling, wherever I'm traveling, whether it's for work or for pleasure. Just very cool way to get out in the morning and just explore the city. I think again, I'm just trying to connect the dot to say that as a runner right now, it's just easier for me to go out and explore whenever I'm traveling. But otherwise, nothing in particular. Most of the travel, what we do, like I said, is with the fact to kind of explore what is unknown to us. So that's how we try to go through.
Absolutely, and that's really a fresh perspective on traveling. I'm sure that we can all sort of learn our way to include some sort of movement, or go and learn something new on a new travels. Probably try at adventure sports also, for that matter, because they can do so much for us when we become go in a situation that makes us feel uncomfortable, right? So we can definitely try to step out of our comfort zone and do something new this time that we're traveling and you're planning our next trip. So thank you for sharing that. And looking at whatever you talk about and the little tidbits you share about your life, it looks like you're such a big community person, right? Like, you love being out in communities, you love doing things in communities. So what do you think does community play a role in one being fit and healthy, and how important is it to sort of find your sense of community when you're doing this?
Yeah, I think surrounding yourself with people who cheer for you in life is very important. And we have to understand we all are social animals, right? I mean, we had a physical version where 10-15 years before the social media was there, we were out all the time. Now there's a different meaning to social community, which is you have platforms where you have a community. So this podcast right now would be hosted somewhere and people might be listening and watching to this podcast, but earlier it would people would just go out and talk to each other in a group. So that was community. So community is super important because it creates a healthy society. And when I say healthy, not just in a literal sense of from an exercise point of view, but generally in healthy society in many dimensions, right? Because it's important for us to kind of share with each other. So, and we also understand that in health in specific, humans are not engineered to be intrinsically motivated, right? I mean, except the elite athletes, you would say, which is probably less than 0.1% of the population, who would get up and they have a reason to do what they do. Majority of the population do not have that intrinsic motivation that you should get up and you should exercise, or you should go for a walk or a jog, or do a yoga or whatever, right? And that motivation then comes from people around you. So it's very important that we surround ourselves with a certain community, be part of the community, or let people form a community where you belong to, so that you can share and the meaning of sharing is also very subjective. In social media today, uh, sharing doesn't mean to show off. I don't know how to put it right up in other words, but sharing would mean to genuinely tell someone, this has worked for me, this is what I have done. Maybe it could work for you, right? So if you put out genuine useful information, the world becomes a better place to live with, and that's how we would learn from each other, right? So the attempt which I constantly do is to kind of put some useful information out there which could help people. And I consume a lot, and I am who I am because I learn a lot from people I surround myself, both online and offline. So therefore, it's super important to be a part of community in some capacity, so that you can grow both mentally
Right.
and physically.
Right, of course. And especially I see this a lot happening with people who love going for marathons, right? Like they have this sense of community, have this group of friends or, colleagues that who love to go on marathons, who call up each other that, hey, it's happening next weekend. Should we go? Should we prepare for it? And it gives you such a sense of community and also something new to look forward to every other month. And, there's nothing better to bond with each other than movement itself, right? Like, so that's a great way to work out together, move together, and also at the same time feel so accomplished at the end of that activity that you wouldn't really feel just going out for a party or just going out drinking, and you won't really feel that sense of accomplishment the way you do when you move together, right? So that makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, to talk about workplace well-being, what are some things that you want to see change at most offices, most corporates, that would really help people, in no matter in what profession they belong to, especially someone in the tech world? Because this, I don't know if it's a misconception or if that's just how we see it, but no matter who we are, when we see people who are in the IT, or we say that they have such long working hours, they're the busiest people, they don't go out much, they don't take care of their health much. And sometimes it is also because the work culture might not be that way. And from what you show, it looks like such an interesting workplace environment that you have, the culture that you have, and where everyone comes along to bond over movement together, or to talk about health like very interestingly, and to invest in health, in each other's health and well-being. So what do you think are some of the things? Is there something strategically that you are doing at your workplace that are like non-negotiables for you as a team, or what is it that you think we can start doing this maybe?
uh, Look, I don't know if I have a perfect answer to it, but I'll just share my thoughts. I think one very important aspect, like I said in the beginning, is surrounding yourself with like-minded people. um, and the like-mindedness has to come in multiple ways, right? So uh, work is where we spend most of our lifetime, right? So in a given day, most of our waking hours is where we spend with our colleagues. And when we are back home, I think the only waking time what you've got is 30%, and the remaining time you're sleeping. So you're not really engaging much with your family members, except when you're grabbing a meal, or you're watching something, or you're playing. That's about it. So majority portion of your time you're spending with your colleagues, and therefore it becomes very important for people. Just like they are very picky about whom to date, whom to get married, it has to be as the same lens to apply where to work and whom to work for or whom to work with. If you're not going to enjoy the company, it's just not going to add much longevity to whatever you do. So therefore, yeah, instead of saying do this or that, I mean, there, corporate wellness, workplace wellness is fairly well defined. There's a lot of stuff which is happening. I feel it's also a lot abused because there's so much work happening in that space. But I think first principles is again creating and space where people enjoy being with each other. And therefore when they start enjoying with each other, they will share common likings. So at our workplace, I mean, in that way I'm lucky because everyone thinks about fitness, everyone thinks about staying healthy. So it's not an alien topic, it's not an alien subject. Every 5 minutes we are trading notes around something around health, right? I mean, something around sports. That's a common fabric of communication what we have. So that kind of also creates that that excitement and culture. And then collectively, if two or three people become the anchor to it, they kind of attract more people to commonly think about it. That's one. Second is, it has to be more top down approach. Instead of one HR sending out an email and telling the world that today is health day or today is employee wellness day or whatever. It has to be more top down approach where the leadership of a certain company realizes the importance and they walk the talk. If the
Right.
boss or the super boss is not doing what they're preaching, it will not go good. It's like saying, at home, if the parent is telling a kid, read books and don't watch TV, and they are not reading books and they are watching TV, it will not work. Right? Kids will do what they see. So exactly like that in a workplace also, people will do what the leadership does. So the walking the talk bit is super important. That leadership should realize that having healthy employees is a contribution to a healthy workplace and healthy company. So they should do their bit, and if it's becoming hard for them, it will not just be an easy approach to go down to the entire company because they're looking up to them. Else it just will become a formality, right? I mean, all the emails forwarded and all the kind of activities, it's just a formality. So I think these two in combination should do some impact in workplaces, and I hope that works.
Absolutely, and especially the first point you made is so true that we need to be as picky about where we work and with whom we work as we are whom to date and not, right? Because that's so true. I mean, we'll consider every other factor like finances and promotions and all of the things, the growth, but not this. Like we'll be like, okay, let's see, let's work it out. Let's see how the team is. We'll see later. But it makes so much sense because you might feel like a misfit, or you might be judged a lot of times on the little things that you don't even notice, like I'm having an early dinner today, like this is what I've got for lunch today, and what are you having? Like those little things can make you feel like a misfit, and it won't really bother you right now, but over the months when you're doing these things, when you probably entered the office being the fittest self, and after a few months you will just not recognize your own self, right? So that's so important to like just see where we are going and with whom we are working and what company we want to keep. That's very true. Thank you for sharing that with us. And that brings us to the end of the episode today. As we conclude, do you have any last messages or thoughts to leave us with?
No, I mean, like I said in the beginning, just try to stay healthy, physically and mentally. Uh, like, repeating myself, we are our own architects of how we want to live life. It's not an external contributor. It's never too late. If I can do much, I mean, it sounds cliche, but if I could figure out what's more important, I could reimagine and reinvent myself. So could anyone be, regardless of their situation or position in life. So yeah, just stay healthy, because that would just make you achieve so much more things in life and unlock more opportunities which you may not have imagined. And good luck to all the listeners who are watching or listening to the podcast, and just my best wishes to everyone.
Thank you. That's a lovely message. And that's it for today's episode. For the ones who would like to reach out to you, would like to listen to your own very podcast, which is The Other Side with Dilip, the links are in the description below. They can definitely reach over, learn more from you, and watch your journey more closely. Thank you once again, Mr. Dilip, for being here today. That's it for today's episode. I'm Sakshi Pawar, and I'll be your host for the Settle or Be Better podcast.
Thank you, Sashi.
You know the drill. Subscribe to the Settle or Be Better podcast, like, share, and comment on our videos. And oh, hit the bell icon because you don't want to miss the mind boggling health discussions we're about to bring for you. Why settle when you can be better?